Back again. Okay, so this screencast lesson is all about retelling the page or section that you choose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete the assignment using the instructions, and I'm going to choose my own section that I wanted to retell. I'm going to show you how to find a section, how to identify it, how to choose which one you want. Now, the answers that I input into this video are going to be from my ideas. Now, if you truly get stumped and you want to use some of my ideas or you want to use my section, that's okay. I would only ask that perhaps you watch the video and don't write word for word what I wrote, if possible, just so that way there's some personal thinking going on. But it's okay if you want to use mine too, because sometimes that's all we can do. Okay, so the page in front of me here, it says Meet the Nonfiction Bookmark. You should have that in front of you. Make sure that you either have this page or you have this cut out, or you have this page or this cutout. Boy, Mrs. Smith. and you're ready with it. You also need this page. So what I've done is I have made a Google slide, and this Google slide, you will be able to see it. I'll put the slides presentation without my video as well. So if you want to print it out using my boxes, you can do that. So the reason why I did these boxes is to identify the different sections that I will be doing, and you can see that I used rainbow colors. And all I'll have to do is double click inside and I can type. If you want to do the same thing in Google Slides, you can. Although it is a little bit more difficult to make sure you can fit everything. I also printed out what I did to make it easier. So maybe instead you just want to print it with the colors and then write inside. That worked for me. I had to take a screenshot of my slide, and then I was able to print it from there. So you can also do that. I will put a blank version of this. So I'm going to fill this one in, and I'll put a blank version on the Google Slides as well, so you can print that if you want to use the pretty colors, or you could make them yourself. Okay, so first step is you should have read this story, Alexander Graham Bell, A Great Inventor. Now we can find the title. I'm highlighting it right now. We can find the author, and it also tells us what kind of story this is. It is a biography, which is a nonfiction text that tells the story of a person's life. Now you will read about Alexander Graham Bell, the man who invented the telephone. What do you want to find out? Set a purpose for reading. So this is something that good readers do. For instance, it could be something for school. So let's say you're in 7th grade, just a couple years from now, and you need to learn about a certain part about Egypt and the Egyptian history, and you want to learn about how they built the pyramids. So that would be the purpose of what your study is. Now, our purpose of this study is perhaps to learn more about Alexander Graham Bell's life. Perhaps we want to learn more about his most famous invention. Perhaps we want to learn about his family. We can identify many different purposes for this. They also give us a question over here. It says, how can a great idea change the way we live? So I wanted to include this first part of it. I did not put each page from the story because you have this in your hard book, so you should have read through it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight certain pages, and I'm going to show you how to identify a page or section to retell for part of your work. So for instance, here is the next page in the book. Now I'm highlighting right here with my mouse. You can see it says early life. That's actually the heading for this section. These next few pages are all about his early life. Now on the left, I know it doesn't really show very well in my picture, this is something kind of interesting. You notice that there are these things. They are the dates. This entire line is called a timeline, and it shows you the dates in order for the things that happened in his life. So let's say you wanted to retell all about his early life. Well, these 2 pages and the next 2 pages would be where you would begin. I took this from my teacher book, so it may not look exactly like yours, but it should be very similar. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, Mrs. Smith chose to do this section for my paper. So my section is called Great Idea. And in this section, we will meet Thomas Watson. We will learn about how he invented the telephone, and we will also learn about when he passed away. and how he passed away in Canada. So I've already read through this section once, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my paper, and you should have this paper in front of you now, so make sure you pause me if you need to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type inside the boxes to show you what I would do. So first of all, everyone has the same book title. It is called A Great Inventor. Now, what's interesting about a title when you're writing it is that it should be underlined, and it should have a capital for each of the first letters of the word. Now I'm going to go down to my second section here, and the second part of the title is his name, Alexander Graham Bell. So, and the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add this double line and make this underlined again. Okay, we're ready. So now I can go and I can figure out who wrote the book. So maybe I need to go back to that first page that we looked at. You can even look back in my slides and find this. The author's name and the person who wrote the words for the book is Lynn Blanton. And so I've written her there. You'll notice that there's some extra space here. You don't have to use it. It's just in case. It kind of depends on how big we write, right? All right. So moving on to yellow section. And you know, I just forgot to mention, if you think about it, this red part applies to the watermelon. This orange part applies to the watermelon. And then now we're moving into the piece of the watermelon. So it's like we're taking this whole story and we're taking just a piece of it. Now, the piece that I chose, if you recall, you may not, I chose a piece about his great invention. And so to answer this question, what page or section am I retelling? I am going to create a complete sentence. I am going to retell the section about Bell's most important invention. Okay, notice the period at the end. Now, maybe yours is about his early life. I am going to retell this section about Alexander Graham Bell's early life. That's all you have to do. Next part is there a heading? And we did find the heading, even though they made it a little bit tricky for us. And the heading for my section, the section is called Great Idea. Now you'll notice that I put these strange two lines. You probably remember that when we're writing, we did a cartoon once where when people were speaking, we used these quotation marks. We also use them when we want to identify smaller headings, such as the heading of the section of the book that we did. So whatever heading of your section that you chose, make sure you use those quotation marks. They're just two little lines right at the top. Kind of like them because you can make them with your fingers too. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you back to where my section is. Here it is. And in my section, one of the things that I noticed that we need to do now is we need to find out 3 important facts. So I read through this again, go to the next page, I read through this again, and I say, okay, I need to pick out 3 important facts from this. And actually, here's my third. There's 3 different sections or 3 different sets of 2 pages for this section. So there's a lot of information I could choose from, plus the ending page. So what I'm going to do is go back to my page. And here I scroll down. They want to know what is one important fact. Well, the fact I chose was Bell and Watson got a patent for their invention. And then after I wrote that, I said, wait a second, shouldn't I identify what a patent is? And that's another excellent fact that very luckily the book gives us. So on my page, it said, a patent says an inventor owns and can make and sell the thing he or she invents. Basically, it means that it's your intellectual property, and people can't say, oh, well, he didn't, they can't go, like for instance now, to the internet and be like, oh, look, this person developed how to make an iPhone. I want to change that name so it's me. Well, the person who created the iPhone has a patent. So the government knows who made it, and they know where the money needs to go. And that's the same thing with Alexander Graham Bell. Now, here's something cool about inventors, guys. Some inventors don't need to make a patent. And one of the most famous vaccines for the polio vaccine was created by a man who decided not to get a patent because he wanted everyone to have access to this vaccine. So not everyone has to get one, but it does help you if you're an inventor. So if you plan on being an inventor when you grow up, think about getting a patent. Now, I have to warn you, I am only able to video approximately 15 minutes at a time. So I'm moving a little quick. If you need to pause me, it's okay. If the video ends and I look like this, it's because I'm going to start a new video in just a moment. So I'll just upload both and you can just watch one and then the other. All right, so while I still have a few moments, let's do the third fact. Now, the third fact that I wanted to point out was when the first telephone call occurred. The first telephone call took place, I'll keep writing, on March 10th, 1876. So look at that. So let's think about if we go back about 50 years, that's 1976, and if we go back another 100 years, that's 1876. So we've had telephones for a long time. And the next question asks me to identify what is the main idea. So this is the part where I need to think. What did they want me to learn about inside this section called a great idea? Well, they wanted me to learn about great ideas, and I'm going to fix a typo. Did you guys notice it before I did? It's okay. They wanted me to learn about these two men who were working together. So first, let me identify that one person's name was Bell. That's his last name. Sometimes we can refer to people as their last name. And the second person's name was Thomas Watson, and we can call him Watson. They worked together, which is interesting, to invent the telephone. So it's not just Alexander Graham Bell. Then the next thing I wanted to mention was just something kind of neat, that the first message, make this a little bigger, there it is. And I'm curious if you saw this. The first message was that the first message that Bell sent was to tell Watson, who was in the next room, but through the phone he told him this, that Watson, he had dropped a jar. So that was the first message that ever went across telephone lines. Pretty neat, right? Now, this last part, it can really be tough to think of questions to ask at the end of it, because you're just thinking to yourself, sometimes you're like, I learned so much. What other possible questions do I have? Well, this is the point where I need to bring in my previous knowledge. So I'll say, okay, well, inventors don't just invent one thing, do they? Not usually. Or I'll think about, do I know another famous inventor that I can connect to this inventor? I need to use my previous knowledge. So my question that I came up with was, did Alexander Graham Bell invent any other items we still use today? And I make sure I end in a question mark. And then I'm done. So I've completed this page. Now, if you want to use my section, you certainly can. Perhaps you watch my video and then you try to do it without my video, but I put it up here for you. So if you need me, I'm here. And I hope you're well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.